Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about the boats that I own and one I just picked up. This was my first boat. This is a Intex Mariner 4. It's basically a gigantic dinghy, and I bought this about 4 years ago. 4 years ago, me and my wife used to fish together a lot more with our son. We used to catfish, and I used to take this out on lakes. And it's basically just a big inflatable raft, a boat. It does have a mounting bracket, which is right here, for a trolling motor, and I used to troll with this, and it worked really well, and it was very stable for fishing. You could fit 2 adults and a child pretty comfortably with a cooler and a deep cycle battery that weighed about 70 pounds, and it worked really well. It does come with paddles, but I never really used them because I use a trolling motor, and they're not the best quality. Honestly, Intex skimps on the paddles. They work, but not very well. There's rowing brackets for them. And like I said, this is a very stable boat. It has a slat floating floor, as you can see here. Once you semi-inflate it, you insert the slat floating floor. As you can see, these are plastic slats, and these things are heavy. Once you get it all, the slats in there, it really adds a lot of weight to the boat, and it's supposed to increase stability, but as you can see, it's kind of a floating floor. You don't really gain a huge amount of stability, the boat, because these are just, there's basically, just slats with the material in between them, and it helps, but it doesn't help a lot, especially if you want to stand up and cast off of the boat. So I made these, me and my wife put these together. These are plywood boards that go over these slat boards, and it makes it incredibly stable. And it was a great boat, for multiple people. It's as good as any John boat. It's a little tighter than a John boat because of the outer tubes on it. I'm not going to fill it up because it's just a lot of work. And this whole setup here, including the battery and the trolling motor, it's incredibly bulky. It takes a lot of time to set up, and when you get, even if you don't put this floor in and just the floating floor, it takes 2 people to lift that boat and put it in the water after you're done filling it up. It's just a big pain. So I got tired of that, and I bought this because my wife stopped fishing with me as much, because I wanted to focus more on lure fishing bass instead of catfish. So it just started to become me, and this is a Native Watercraft Ultimate 12. It's a 12-foot. I bought this after I bought a Pelican, which I got a little flack for that video where I basically tore the Pelican apart, but I really think the design of the Pelican, it sat too low in the water. It was very unstable. A lot of people said that boat didn't fit me, but my wife tried it, and it was just as unstable for her, and she only weighs 112 pounds and is less than 6 feet tall. She's only 5'3", I believe, and even she couldn't keep it stable. So I got fed up with that, and I bought this, and this is a great boat. It does everything I need it to do. The only problem with it is that it is incredibly heavy, and when I'm going out there alone, I basically have to car top this on my Nissan Altima with 2 foam blocks. I have to tie them down with ratchet straps, the front and back lines. This is of my own Kayak cart. It's supposed to be universal. It does not fit this boat because of the bottom of the boat being a sort of canoe kayak hybrid. My wife actually bought this for me, and I can't really blame her. It's supposed to be universal, but because of that weird bottom design for stability, it just doesn't work with that cart. So until I buy a new cart or modify that cart, I can't really transport this very far. And the reason all this is so hard for me isn't just because I'm not strong or anything. It's because I actually used to be an armored car guard, and I had a shoulder injury where I tore my rotator cuff, and I opted out of getting surgery. It healed wrong, so I have a lot of scar tissue in my shoulder. It makes it very difficult for me to lift heavy weights over my head. And this kayak, even with the seat out of it, is somewhere around 70 pounds. If I left the seat in it, that probably adds another 7 or 8 pounds. It's just a very heavy, bulky kayak, and unfortunately that's the trade-off when you want to get something really stable and well made. They're generally going to be heavy, unfortunately, unless you get like a cheap little Sun Dolphin or something, and then you trade off stability and I'll be honest, quality. You know, I can easily stand up in this kayak while fishing. It's incredibly stable, but it is, again, just like this thing, it's a real pain in the butt. You know, if I had a truck or something, I'd just throw it in the back, but car topping this thing has become so difficult that I just don't even feel like taking it out. It is what it is. Someday I'll figure out a solution for this. Unfortunately, this is what I would be preferring to use in this area, because there's snakes and alligators and whatnot. I really don't want to be in the water or very low in the water next to them. I like having that hard plastic around me. So I've kind of been pretty desperate for a solution. I really want to get off the bank and do some fishing. Don't want to deal with this, don't want to deal with that. So I've come up with a new idea, and I don't know how this is going to work. I've watched a lot of videos of unboxing this boat. This is an Intex Explorer K2 kayak. It was pretty cheap on Amazon. I've heard mixed reviews about it. Some people say it's no better than a pull float. Other people say it does more than enough. I've seen some really large people get in this thing. I weigh about 210, and if I can get this to work and I don't feel uncomfortable being in gator infested waters in it, this may be a solution for me for this area. It looks like the total weight of the box is 36.7 pounds. So we're going to go ahead and open it up and check it out. Alright, so right off the bat we got 2 paddles, a pump, maximum capacity of 400 pounds, Explorer K2. And I'm sorry if I'm sweating all over the place, it's about 90 degrees. So it has 2 seats, a skeg, pump, bag. We're going to shed some of that weight because I will not be using the paddles and one of the second seats. I definitely want to use the skeg if I can. I heard there's an issue with them falling off, and it was recommended to basically drill a hole in the skeg and attach it to the rope so that when it does fall off, you won't lose it to deal with. Alright, so let's just get these out of the way. These are paddles. Not even going to bother opening them. Not even going to bother using those. I have my own better quality kayak paddles. So we'll just get that out of the way right now. So it's definitely a lot less weight to deal with. So far not too bad. Got a seat. There's another seat in here. I'll be using that. Skeg, I guess that's a inflating kit. There's that skeg. There's the pump. I found that on the water, you really want to keep this pump with you. I've never heard anybody mention it, but you can inflate it while you're out on the water. And you notice your boat's getting a little, low. You can pretty much pump it up while you're on the water. So I've already watched some videos on how to inflate this. You have two basically stability bars that you inflate by mouth, one on one end and one on the other. These chambers are numbered. You fill them up in sequence by number. So let's see. Alright, that's 4. We got a 2, 3. This 1 is somewhere back here. Where's 1? There's 1. 1 is the floor, and then you inflate the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and try to inflate this thing real quick. Alright, so I got it all set up, and it took about 15 minutes. Mainly because my shoulder was really hurting when I was pumping it. I definitely recommend using an electric pump if you have that option. If not, just suffer through the hand. It's definitely easier to set up and transport than either of those two. It'll remain to see how this handles on the water. I'm hoping in a couple days I can take it out and try it. I am a little worried about the alligators in this thing. And I don't have a fear of alligators or snakes or anything, but it's a different story when you're in the water with them. So I guess I'm going to do another video when I take this thing out and see how it works. So far it's a lot easier to set up, a lot lighter to transport, and more compact. I can already tell that there's not a lot of room in the cockpit area. I'm probably going to either leave my poles behind me or in front of me, and we'll see how it goes. Also, I didn't put the skeg on. I wanted to check that out and see what that's going to look like down there. It looks like the skeg just slides into place, and I can kind of see what people were talking about by it falling out. I guess it just slides in. Yeah, that's not really on there very good. So I'll have to come up with a retainer or something to make sure that doesn't get lost. Also, I didn't notice this. Looks like there's a drain plug right there. That's kind of nice. Didn't notice that before. Anyway, that is a very brief introduction to the Intex Explorer K2, otherwise known as the Big Banana. So that's going to do it for this video. I didn't really want to spend a lot of time on going over the setup process and whatnot. Today was more of just a test run. Like I said, it is in the 90s. The humidity is through the roof. I spent about a week in Florida last week, and it was a lot like it is here in North Carolina. Very hot, very humid. As you can tell, I'm just covered in sweat. And the reason I did that is because it's just a reality of where I live. It's very hot, it's very humid, and I wanted to kind of torture test myself to see, you know, when it's really bad out and I do take this thing out, am I going to be able to get through it? Is it going to wear me out to the point where I just don't even want to take it out? And putting it together really wasn't that bad. It was a little hard, but that's only because my shoulders messed up. A lot easier than the other two kayaks actually set up, and I imagine it's really not that hard to carry it to the water. It's a lot lighter than the other two boats. It really wasn't that bad. Didn't bother my shoulder much, mostly just the pumping of the chambers. I think I'm going to partially deflate it when I do take it out. I know it's not a fishing kayak. It's not made for that, but I do think you can fish out of it. And I am going to be grading it on just as a kayak, so I'm not really going to judge it too harshly on how difficult it is to fish out of it. I am going to judge it on how it tracks, you know, if it's holding air in or not, things like that, just little things. And I will be going over the more finer points of this kayak, but I just wanted to do a brief video and unbox it and just show you guys basically what it looks like. I know there's a ton of these videos out there already, but I feel like some people are overly critical of this boat, and I feel like some people are overly positive about this boat and sort of go over the negative. So I think there's two extremes in either direction. I kind of feel like I'm in the middle. I have very realistic expectations about how this is going to perform. I do have comparisons. I know a lot of the other people's videos, they don't have a comparison of a hard shell high-end fishing kayak or a better inflatable or even a cheaper kayak. So I have a lot of previous ownership to judge this by. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing handles, and you know, if it gives me enough confidence, I will be doing that serious trip up the White Oak River into the back lakes where the giant bass are. I've been wanting to do that ever since Hurricane Florence. I have not been able to get back to those lakes, and the place is just closed, so there's only one way in, and you got to go upriver, and it's just full of alligators and snakes. It gets very narrow in places. There is a bit of current, and I'm not even entirely sure I'll be able to do this trip without having a motor to get through those choke points. A lot of the river is very calm, you know, with a very mild amount of current, but it is a very narrow river, and in those choke points that water is really just pushing through, and you really got to paddle pretty hard. I know that when I did a tournament last year, we went into the very, very back where the lakes join the river. We had a lot of trouble getting through a choke point, even with a trolling motor and a John boat. So that'll be interesting to see if I get to that point with this boat. I am going to take this out to my other spot that I've been fishing lately. It's a lot calmer. It's just a big lake. My only concern there are alligators, and most of the time they don't bother you, but like I said, there was that one that I did that video on that was acting a little aggressive. He wasn't bothering me, but there were a couple times when he would turn and come towards me on the bank and then veer off, and to me that's kind of a warning that the skater has spent time around people, is associating people with something, probably food, and that does make me a little nervous because that's usually when you get attacked. It's not an issue when you're on a bank normally, but you know, out on a boat, I don't know. So we're going to have to take this step by step until I get enough confidence with this boat. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.